Welcome, people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
It's going, man. NBA season is now getting a little bit dry these days, but that's not going to stop the content from getting itself together. We had to take a little week to kind of reconvene and figure out how we wanted to do things for the rest of this off season. I think we got some heat coming.
We do have some heat coming, including this episode, talking some summer league starting our positional rankings this episode, which is going to be very, very interesting to see where we have some of the best players at each position. We're going to start with the guards today, so that's going to be great in terms of top 5 point guards, top five shooting guards. That should be a very interesting list. And of course, you got the staples of the podcast, the draft and the quiz at the end, which of course will definitely have some fireworks. But yeah, before we start our episode, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual accounts at the Knockdown J, at TV on Basketball, down in the description below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, for the best daily NBA content, follow our TikTok and Instagram. If you're on YouTube watching us right now, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, all that good stuff. And if you're listening on any of the podcast networks, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, make sure to leave a review, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We really do appreciate all your guys' support. Jay, we got the plug-in out the way. Let's get into some NBA basketball.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And of course, the summer league is happening right now. And to be honest, there's been awesome highlights. I think according to a lot of people, it's been one of the best summer leagues in a minute. But it's still kind of the dead part of the NBA season. It's kind of hard to kind of keep up. But we will provide some of our summer league thoughts, just kind of stuff here and there that we've noticed over these last couple weeks. And as of recording, I mean, summer league season's almost over. It's going to be the championship game tonight, so by the time you're listening to this, that should be over as well. I'm going to throw it over to Jay first. What is one of the biggest takeaways you've had from the summer league so far?
I mean, the biggest thing about summer league is always that you love to see really good storylines make their way onto the court. I think one of the most important things is looking at guys who might have been underrated or maybe considered as dudes that might have been flight risk in one way or another, and it showed itself in the way they were drafted this year. For example, I think the best representation of that this year is Cam Whitmore with the Houston Rockets, right? Cam Whitmore was a guy that coming into the NBA draft, dang near up till draft night, it felt like, was projected as a top 5 caliber player in this draft class. He dropped all the way down to the Rockets at 20. There was multiple opportunities for a handful of these teams that would have been nice, including the Washington Wizards, who I thought would have been a really interesting team to pick up a guy like that. Nonetheless, a talent of his caliber, a dude that was considered a top 5 guy in this class, dropped all the way to 20 because of medicals. And sometimes, this is one of those things where I believe that sometimes front offices can kind of overthink the situation, right? At the end of the day, if a player is good, the medical situation, yes, there's certain scares that maybe make you a little bit weary. But there's other situations where sometimes you just have to see the situation play itself out. Cam Whitmore is a great example, but TV, I'll give you a different example. You remember when Michael Porter Jr. was in the exact same situation? This was a guy that in his draft class was projected as a top 10 talent. I believe that he might have even been like the number 1 or number 2 player in his class coming out of high school, even before going to Missouri. Yeah, I think it was him and Marvin Bagley battling for the top spot for a long time. And because of injury concerns, and granted, they've still been a big plague in his career so far with the Denver Nuggets, but it hasn't hindered what made him that caliber of a player. He's still a big-time efficient shooter. He's maybe not as explosive as an athlete as he was coming out of high school in his first year in Missouri, but he's still a big-time athlete. The shooting stroke is still superb, which is one of his biggest calling cards, because we know that he can be a dude that can average 18 points on 50, 40, 90, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a similar, maybe not in terms of the actual skill set, right? But in terms of the storyline, Cam Whitmore, to me, feels like he's going to fall under a similar structure career-wise. Now, again, I don't think that his injury is as potent
severe.
to his career. Severe maybe is a better word in comparison to Michael Porter Jr. in terms of maybe how it affects his career long term. Those are all things that are TBD, right? But I think
Yes.
that when you talk about skill set translation to the league, a lot of what we've seen from Cam Whitmore, especially defensively during the summer league, is stuff to definitely be excited about. The Rockets, I mean, look, we all, if you know anything about the NBA draft, we probably all believe that the Rockets had the biggest steal of the night, getting a top 5 talent in the draft at 20, along with getting arguably the second best guard on the board in Amen Thompson
Yeah.
at 4. So we knew that the Rockets came out of this thing like a thief in the night. But after seeing Summer League, look, I know I have my worries about the Rockets in terms of how they stand up against the rest of the Western Conference. But TV, at some point during this offseason, we'll probably do some kind of like league pass rankings
Yeah.
because there are just some must-watch teams in this NBA. Granted, all 30 teams you want to watch for different reasons. The
Yeah.
league is more watchable now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
But boy, these Rockets are going to be high on that summer I mean high on that list when the time comes because they are going to be exciting to watch. If the guys that we think deserve to play do get significant time, this is going to be a fun team to watch, dude.
That I cannot say any better. That is literally the biggest thing I'm gonna be like talking about here too, and not just Cam Whitmore having a fantastic summer league. He won summer league MVP. Tari Eason in this limited time has looked like an absolute stud.
Yeah.
Jabari Smith played 2 games and looked like he was a man amongst boys in the summer league. It's like talent is talent at the end of the day, and
Mm-hmm.
the Rockets are just oozing with young talent over there. My thing is, how's Ime Udoka going to put this all together? That was basically my thing here because the more and more I see of this Rockets in the summer league and what I've seen last year, and just like the amount of high draft picks they've had, Alperen Sengun being a pretty good steal from his draft, he's going to be like their starting center going into next year. Still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Fred VanVleet because they have a freaking ton of guards. Like, how is he going to fit in this whole rotation? I mean, he got freaking paid, so he's going to have to play starter minutes. How is he going to figure this all out? Because, like I said, talent is talent. Amen Thompson looked good in the limited minutes he showed before he did get injured as well. It's just having like so much. Like, it's a good problem to have, and I like when teams face this because at the end of the day, you guys get to figure out like who you want to keep on your team long term, and even the guys that you might want to get rid of, they're gonna have some nice trade value going forward. But Udoka's coming into a situation where he kind of has a blank canvas. The Rockets have looked like an utter mess under Steven Stiles in the past. They just looked like they had no structure. Can Ime Udoka create the structure for these young guys to flourish in? In the 1 year he had with Boston, we saw that he was able to take this team who was a fringe finals contender, like a constant second round exit all the way to the finals, and really like create like a nice like structured defensive system over there. Now he has a bunch of young guys who still have a lot of learning to do, but are they able to put together this formula? Because if there's one thing that Ime Udoka has like endless at his possibilities, it's the draft capital and it is the young talent. That's a great place to start with. It's just whether he's able to put all these pieces together like he was able to with the Boston Celtics, even though they're a bit more established. But now he has his own like blank canvas. What's he gonna do with all these guys? And how is he gonna be able to play all these minutes? There's only 48 minutes a game. There's only so many people you can play. Who's gonna have to be cut off, and who's gonna be able to like step up in those minutes when it really comes to like regular season basketball?
So something I actually want to ask you too. I'll touch on a little bit more summer league too later on, just because I have like a few other thoughts about some guys that like slipped in the draft, guys that I was like really interested in as well.
Yeah,
But I want to stick on the Houston Rockets for a second, only because you brought up so much to like from summer league, right? While we're on the topic of it, I
yeah,
want to kind of stick with that theme and ask you this. You mentioned this beforehand with Jabari Smith, Tari Eason. Obviously, we saw Amen. We've seen Cam Whitmore. We already know what type of time Jalen Green is on. Dylan Brooks was signed. Fred VanVleet was brought in. They still have Alperen Sengun. Like you mentioned, there's a ton to like about this team. But this is also a team that for the last 3 years, we've been really worried about like what their future is long term in terms of what they're trying to build, how they're trying to move, the fact that they don't control their draft capital really for the next couple of seasons, which is even a reason why many mentioned that like a lot of the money they threw out this offseason was because they have a incentive to start trying to truly win moving forward. And so based off what you've seen, not just from Summer League, but just from what they've done this offseason, now that we've gotten a lot better of an understanding of what the canvas is supposed to look like going into next season, does any of this change how you feel about the Houston Rockets, not as a team, because I think we definitely feel a lot more confident in them now than we probably have the last few seasons, but does it make you feel any different about them in terms of maybe where they rank amongst some of the other young teams on the rise, though? Like, we know that Oklahoma City obviously is at the tippity top of that list, not just because they have 8 billion draft picks leading up until when robots get created and take all our jobs level, like, but also the fact that they have an MVP caliber guard in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've got some serious building blocks with Chet Holmgren. I think the building that is still Josh Giddey. That's a topic for a different discussion, but I think that he's definitely a guy that's, you know, big time in terms of that. There's a lot of guys across their roster to the point that I think they have 21 guys signed, and I think like arguably 17 of those guys could legit play. Like, I think there's a handful of those guys that like just deserve a roster spot. So we know that the Oklahoma City Thunder are at the top of that list. But then you have the Detroits, the Indianas, the Charlotte Hornets, the Orlando Magic, the Spurs even. Does Houston, wherever you had them before, have they vaulted up or dropped down, stayed the same? Has anything really changed for you after seeing some of the developments over the last couple of weeks between Summer League and what they did this summer?
I think so, because from what I see in Summer League, and granted, it is Summer League. I mean, Anthony Bennett looked like a god in Summer League back in the day, and look what he turned it out to be. But at the end of the day, what makes me more confident about this team now, whether you like him or not, Ime Udoka is a culture setter. That's the same reason why Monty Williams was brought in for the Detroit Pistons. It's the same reason Ime Udoka was brought in for the Houston Rockets. They needed a professional. They needed someone to set a culture there. Whether putting away his like whole situation aside, what he's able to do is look at the roster and look at the amount of talent he has and be able to rearrange the team the way that he sees fit. And now with the no added pressure about, you know, wanting the tank to try and get this next guy, not being told by the front office, oh, we don't have our picks for the next few years. It's best to tank now. Without that type of pressure and just going out and winning, like basically the same situation that he came into the Celtics for. Granted, it was obviously not the same amount of continuity and the same sort of talent level. But at the end of the day, you're going into a team with a lot of raw talent and trying to build them into the way that you want to. And you want to win, which is a great sign for Ime Udoka to walk into, being able to kind of build it his own way. And that's what makes me a bit more confident in his team, because you got the talent. Now you have the coach there to kind of really set a real structure in the Houston Rockets organization, which they haven't had probably since the James Harden days. It makes me definitely a lot more confident in this team going forward.
I think something that I take away from this is that although I don't think they've created a pathway yet, only because I think there's still so much to wonder about who sticks, right? Who can actually get playing time.
So many question marks.
So many question marks in terms of just who's going to be able to get on the floor for this team, right?
Yeah.
There's still a lot to wonder about. But at the same time, I do think there's also a handful of things to really like in terms of how they stack up with some of the other younger teams. The San Antonio Spurs, for example, they've got their blue chip generational guy in Victor Wembanyama, but it's going to be interesting to see how it translates to NBA basketball. He mentioned in his first summer league game, and granted, I think people completely overreacted. And the minute he came out in his game 2 and he balled out, everybody was quiet. So we definitely understand that the kid can ball, and he's going to take some time to be able to get adjusted to the game. Anybody who thought he was going to be an all-star season 1 is also crazy. So give the kid some time to figure stuff out. But although we know he is the generational prospect, now it's going to be about truly being able to build the roster to optimize him. We do like a handful of the guys that are there. I like Vassell. I like Keldon Johnson. I like some of the things that's going on over there, especially defensively for that team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna be a minute. Now that they've gotten the big man on campus, now they have to lean into what his skill sets are. Granted, he's gonna be probably one of the more portable players in the league in terms of the different things he can do, but it's still going to be a skill set that needs some time to be worked around. The Orlando Magic, they're a team that has so many wings that deserve to play. That's going to be interesting to figure out how the heck they solve their point guard problem,
Yeah.
for example, which is probably their biggest hole, despite the fact that I like Cole Anthony. I like Markelle Fultz. I like Anthony Black, who they just took. But it's going to be interesting to see how all that translates when you look at a team that has a ton of wing play, but they still are a team that struggles to shoot. We don't ever know what the Charlotte Hornets are doing, ever.
Yeah.
And the Detroit Pistons are obsessed with the big man position.
Yeah.
So there's a lot when you look across the board. And for example, like the Portland Trailblazers, they're just starting their rebuild, really. The Wizards, they're just starting their rebuild, really, right? So there's still a lot of question marks with them. So ahead of the Thunder, the only other team that I could think I feel better about than Houston right now is probably Indiana. That's probably the only team that I feel much better about than Houston. And I would argue that Houston across the board in terms of their young core is probably more talented than Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton might be the best player of the entire group, but depth-wise, in terms of talent, I think Houston like runs away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely like again a lot to like. It's more about what a lot of these teams are starting to have, and they already have a jump start in. Is the fact that they're already kind of like setting a culture, is trying to set like a structure there, that's where Houston's lacking. Talent, they're definitely not lacking. It's about trying to build a structure, and with the change from Steven Silas to now Ime Udoka, they're finally starting that. And now it's about trying to figure out how long that process is going to take. They've got the talent, they've got kind of depth at each position, they got the veteran guys in there. Now it's trying to build that culture, trying to build that system, which teams like you mentioned with the Magic, the Pacers, maybe not the Hornets, but like others of those teams, the Pistons as well. They're already starting to build that little culture over there, and they already have a jump start at that. It's time for them to kind of start building that and trying to see what they're able to do with the talent that they are given. Before we move on to the next topic, though, what are some of the other quick fire thoughts that you had before we move on?
Yeah, man, just a couple of other guys that I thought were really interesting. First off, Amani Bates, man, another one of those guys that was highly talked about a year ago in terms of what he was going to be in the NBA. Getting drafted by the Cavaliers, putting his head down, coming into summer league, really balling out. He's going to be a guy, again, the wing position was a big question mark for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not saying that Amani Bates is going to come in and start. That's not going to happen because we've seen a few things with the Cavs that are going to help them out in terms of addressing that position moving forward, right? The main thing being picking up Max Strus this offseason. So I'm not saying Amani Bates is going to come in there and start, but he's a guy that I think he's talked about at Summer League a handful of things that make you feel really good about not only his focus on his development, but also how he's going to carve out a position for himself in this league. He was talking a lot about defense. He was talking a lot about being good as a catch and shoot 3-point guy. He was talking about being a good follow-up as a setup man next to guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Things where he was talking more about what he can do as a big-time player off the ball as opposed to being on the ball. Something that Amani Bates has basically been used to his entire basketball life, being given the ball and saying, you make it happen. This is going to be the first time that he's not going to be expected to do that. He's not ever, I don't think with the Cleveland Cavaliers, as long as the roster is constructed the way it is, I don't think he's ever going to be asked to do that. But I think that his understanding of that, his realization of where he falls in the pecking order, and his understanding of what it is he's going to need to do moving forward in order to stick in this league long term, these are all really good signs for a kid that's been through a lot of crap in the last 2 years, right? That's a big one for me. Another one that I thought was like really interesting was Jordan Walsh. He was a guy that was taken at 38. It says he's drafted by the Kings, but he's going to the Celtics. He's a dude that I think the defensive acumen that he has, I think is going to get him on the floor this year. Like, I see a world where maybe he's in the G League for a little while because I think they still want to touch on his 3-point shot. And I think that there's still a lot offensively that you would like to see from him. But it's really interesting. There's a lot in terms of positional size and his overall defensive impact in terms of his ability to like really hunt the ball. They they lost out on Grant Williams this offseason through the sign-in trade. But I think there's a world where if they can get Jordan Walsh's shot down pack where he can shoot like 36, 37% off catch and shoot threes, he could be their Grant Williams replacement. Now, I hate to put Grant Williams on the back burner so quickly. Like, the boy hasn't even played a single game for the Dallas Mavericks yet. So I don't want to disrespect him or anything. But I think that Jordan Walsh was a very good complementary pick and a supplementary pick for Grant Williams. Now looking at what it is that he's able to do defensively, and if he can develop that 3-point shot, like I said, he could be somebody that's really interesting for that team to get rotational minutes. And I think we understand the Celtics are not scared to play young guys if they contribute, a la Peyton Pritchard when he was taken in the draft once upon a time, right? There was a point where people were wondering if Peyton Pritchard was so good that maybe him and Marcus Smart should split minutes at the lead point guard position. There were like weird conversations like that where I never thought that Peyton Pritchard was better than Marcus Smart, but I could understand why there were certain aspects where maybe Peyton helped their team in ways that Marcus Smart couldn't, a la shooting the ball at and things of that nature. So those are two guys in the late round that I like really like. And then obviously another guy that just was taken in the first round that I liked him way before the draft, Keontae George with the Jazz.
I was gonna talk about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass him over to you because I mean I've already been kind of going for a second, but also I mean they're calling them the next Jordan Poole already. It's up to you to determine whether or not that's paying respect or if that's considered disrespectful. I think in a weird way that should be considered as respectful because I don't think that Jordan Poole is a bad player. I don't think anything we saw last season was a representation of the kind of player I think he has the ability to be. I do see where it could be seen as a net negative because Jordan Poole, Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero, they all get thrown into this bubble of microwave score that can't give you much else. I think that Keontae has a lot more tools than that, but to be determined. But like I said, I'll pass it over to you because I've already been going for a little while.
Yeah, no worries. I guess like just to pick up on like the whole like Keontae George thing. This is part of the Rudy Gobert package. It's looking worse and worse for the Minnesota Timberwolves that they were able to give up all that draft capital. And I don't know. I mean, like the Jazz got something there with Walker Kessler. I feel like it's going to be sort of like maybe not starter level minutes, but Keontae George is going to play a decent role for that team come to regular season, coming off the bench. I think like the whole Jordan Poole comparison, I think there's actually more to Keontae George's game, especially as a playmaker that can like maybe have him have some sort of little difference in terms of the skill set compared to Jordan Poole. But man, in the small like sample size we've had of him playing in the 3 games, playing 25 minutes and averaging 21 points a game with 6 assists and like 3 rebounds, this guy's going to be a good player for this team. And this was like someone who was like potentially going to be a lottery pick, kind of slipped like just outside the lottery. And it's another good pickup for a young Utah Jazz team who already have Walker Kessler. They already got like Gori Markkinen like moving on to bigger heights. Now they had Keontae George that makes an add to their young core. It's a nice player to add. Other people I want to talk about, Chet Holmgren. I mean, he did not play at all last season. Came in here with the new facial hair and everything. I think he's gonna make an immediate impact. That's all I want to say. He's gonna when he goes to the Thunder, he's gonna make an absolute immediate impact, especially at that 5 or 4 position wherever he's gonna play. I'm excited to see him, and also Asar Thompson. I was worried about his offensive game and kind of his like overall skill set, but man, this man's a Swiss Army knife. This guy could do a little bit of everything. He has the defensive acumen. He's a great rebounder, solid passer. He's like showing me a lot more on the scoring side of the ball, which is the kind of my worry part with him coming into the draft. But man, he looks good, and he's gonna add to that Detroit Pistons core, which they needed a wing. And Asar Thompson could be that guy. Their building block piece for them going forward. So those are just a few guys. Maybe not so much of the lower tier guys, but the guys that I was excited to watch in terms of the high profile draft picks, and also Chet Holmgren. I'm excited to see them with them playing. Also, last but not least, before we move on, Grady Dick with the Toronto Raptors. the Raptors team was so bad. The fact that Grady Dick was able to average 17 points was kind of a miracle. So good job on him. Excited to see what he's able to do next year. Moving on to the next topic, and man, trade rumors are still around in terms of the NBA offseason. Yes, the signings have basically been made, but there are still many question marks, including with these two guys, James Harden and Pascal Siakam. Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you. Is James Harden going to be in a 76ers uniform by the start of the season? Because it seemed like at first there was a guarantee he was going to go to the Clippers. Now the 76ers want to keep him around, but James Harden is adamant he still wants to go to the Clippers. How do you see this all ending?
I think at the end of the day, I think he's going to be moved, but I think that Philly is in a really tough spot. TV, something we talked about off camera was the comments made by Joel Embiid actually earlier today, as when we're recording this, regarding where he stands on winning a championship. And basically, he said what a superstar should say in terms of saying that is one of his top priorities, is one of the things that's the most important to him, but something that Philly fans' antennas automatically stick up to. And I think all NBA fans should obviously gravitate towards this part of the conversation is he mentioned in Philly or anywhere else, right? And that's the big thing. For years on, we've had this conversation about how much is Joel Embiid going to be able to endure on a mental level before we start to wonder whether he's the next one, being the next superstar, right? That looks to move on from the team that drafted him and create a better opportunity for himself, if they view it as such, right?
Yeah.
And we've always kind of viewed Joel Embiid as like a dude who, like, he wants to be a Sixer for life. He's kind of even he's even verbalized that himself. He's given us a lot of indications that this is the team that he wants to win the championship with. And this was the first time that he gave us any sign of real doubt.
Yeah.
The first time we've ever gotten any kind of real soundbite that made you wonder, is Joel Embiid's future in Philly really at risk? And so the reason why that's so important when talk about this James Harden thing is because I think that this only further emphasizes that the James Harden situation has way more weight on what happens with Philly moving forward than we could have ever expected. Because it's not just whether or not you're able to move on from James, it's how James plays if he returns. It's what the trade package looks like in terms of what the Philadelphia 76ers are getting in return if they do move from James Harden. And the overall overlying question of it all comes back down to, is this Philly team built to win a championship? Because if the answer to that question is no, that's another wasted year of Joel Embiid's prime. Mind you, we're talking about a guy that's been a back-to-back MVP runner-up, won the MVP this past season, and is going into a year where the expectations are going to continue to get higher now that he is the league MVP, right? So the question now lies, can you afford to get rid of James Harden for essentially, if it's going to be the Clippers, for example, pennies on the dollar? Because based on the kind of different trade packages that have been put together, any of them involving the Clippers don't involve very talented assets coming back in return. They're good fit guys. They're good rotational pieces. They're not guys that are over the top trademarks. These are not dudes that in the league, when you think of dudes who are going to help put your team over the top and continue to help you build a championship caliber squad, Robert Covington ain't going to do that, right? Yeah. Nicholas Batum isn't going to do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that James Harden's going to be there for a minute. I don't think this trade is going to happen anytime soon. And I think that part of the sales pitch for having to do that is that whatever happens to James simultaneously impacts whatever's going to happen with Joel. And I don't think Philly can afford losing Ben Simmons in a past offseason, James Harden this offseason, and then Joel Embiid by the trade deadline for Lord who knows what.
Yeah. I mean, is it any surprise that alongside with these Joel Embiid comments, like there was like a report coming around this time that that the 76ers are expecting an all-star level return for James Harden? It's not a surprise whatsoever because, let's be honest, I mean, James Harden this offseason, he could have just declined the player option and just chose to go elsewhere. I think he accepted the player option expecting that he was going to be traded and that he had the the cards in his quarter. He had all of the leverage here. But now with this whole Joel Embiid situation looming, and now with probably the very minimal paid trade package that they were going to get in return for James Harden in return for the Clippers, it's kind of like, yeah, it's probably makes sense to kind of trade off James Harden, but with the way your team is structured right now and with the aspirations you have, you can't lose him now. Now you have to kind of rope it back in. You got to talk it out with James Harden saying, "Look, I know we mentioned all this and that, but we still here to win championship. At the end of the day, we are your best bet." And that's kind of the stuff I don't think the 76ers were planning on doing, but now with this extra added pressure from Joel Embiid, which I mean, he just said this out in public. There probably have been discussions going on outside of probably behind closed doors and stuff like that between Joel Embiid and the organization. Now that you have this extra added pressure, you're probably looking at the James Harden situation and saying, now we have to reprimand this, because there's no way that we're going to be trading James Harden and getting equal or some sort of good value in return. It's just not going to be possible. So the 76ers are caught here, whether in trying to make a good locker room, whether trying to get everything kind of put together. Is everything going to be set for the start of the regular season, or are they going to fall through with the whole James Harden thing and kind of make their team worse in the process? They're put in this tough situation, but at the end of the day, they're here to win a championship, and they're going to have to do whatever Joel Embiid kind of wants. And if Joel Embiid wants to win, then trading away James Harden, your second best player, borderline All-Star last year, probably isn't the best way to go about things. So it's going to be very interesting, because it felt like a week or two ago it felt set in stone, but now it feels like the 76ers will do it if they have to, but they rather not, which is something I was not expecting for this to turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last thoughts that I kind of have on it is that, man, Philly just can't have a decent offseason, can they?
They cannot. They
I
can't.
think that's just the other thing that's so tough, bro, is they just cannot have an offseason where they can just, even last offseason when I thought they did really well optimizing the roster around Joel Embiid, it just still seemed like everything was around the question of, can these two playoff chokers get it done, right? It was all these things where it's no matter what the circumstances are, this team is always littered with question marks and reasons to doubt, and this is literally just another one.
Exactly.
Man, it's tough. I don't want to regurgitate either one of our points too crazy, but yeah, these guys cannot get away with a good offseason, a decent, quiet, productive offseason to save their lives, I swear.
I mean, the same could be said for James Harden. When was the last offseason where we didn't have this guy talked about leaving one way or another of a certain team? It's just continuing on. I'm excited. I'm interested to see how this all ends up. I feel like Clippers fans were basically commenting, "Oh, we could just give away Robert Covington, this and that, to get a borderline All-Star." Now it might have to be a little bit different. Let's see how the Philadelphia 76ers try and either convince James Harden to stay, or what package they get in return. Because if they do end up trading to the Clippers, yikes, it's going to be very, very minimal. Moving on from James Harden, moving on to a situation where it's kind of the opposite. Pascal Siakam and all these trade rumors moving around him to the Atlanta Hawks, to the Indiana Pacers. But the difference is, Siakam wants to stay. He wants to sign that big monster deal, and and the Raptors are trying their best to not pay him the deal. So, Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. How the hell is this situation gonna end up? Siakam wants to stay. The Raptors might want him gone. Where's Siakam gonna be by the start of next season?
I mean, TV, whether it was on purpose or not, buddy, I can't blame you for being choked up. I wouldn't know what to do either, bro. I'm not gonna hold you, gang. Whether it was on purpose or not, I cannot blame you, dog, because it's a hard thing to get on. I mean, look, man, the hardest part about Toronto is that you just never you know that various trend that tends to kind of come back around at least once or twice every year, where it's don't let them know your next move. Well, Masai Ujiri is taking that trend too far. We're at the point with Toronto, bro, where I just never know what the play is. You move Kyle Lowry for a bag of chips in the offseason. the season prior in a year where many thought that the trade deadline was your best opportunity to maybe be able to maximize what little, real value he really had left. Then you let Fred VanVleet walk away to the Houston Rockets for a price that, granted, if I was Toronto, I'm not paying that either. So I completely understand not matching what Fred VanVleet went for. But again, that was a guy that I think you could have maximized the trade value he had as a guy that literally had came off an all-star season the year prior. Now, granted, wasn't necessarily playing like an all-star this past year, right? Yeah. I think he shot like 39% from the floor or something crazy like that. It was something not great, and it was from the field. It wasn't from three. That was like less than 40% from the floor, right? So that's definitely something that wasn't really helping his stock out, which is why maybe you would have been selling low, but you would have gotten at least something. Then you trade a first-round pick to get Jakob Poeltl and then get haggled by Jakob Poeltl. Like, what the heck? They trade a first-round pick for Jakob Poeltl, and Jakob Poeltl dangles out, hey, if you don't pay me Nikola Vucevic, Kristaps Porzingis money, two guys who have at least made an all-star team in their career, as opposed to Jakob Poeltl, he dangles out, hey, I could always just go back to San Antonio. Or, hey, what if I entertain the Houston Rockets? And therefore, you get thrown over a barrel and contribute $20 million a year to bringing Jakob Poeltl back after already paying a first-round pick to get him in the first place. And now you're staring at a year where OG Anunoby is going to be in question all year long because he becomes an unrestricted free agent next offseason. So are you going to wait for another trade deadline to pass to watch yet another piece of your core potentially walk out the door for nothing? That's a question now that we have to ask, considering they're building a weird pattern of it. And then this Pascal Siakam thing, TV, this might be the weirdest one. Buddy wants to stay, but for the sake of the team long term, he might not be a good fit to keep.
Yeah.
The other guys probably were better moving on, and you kept them, essentially in a weird way, held them hostage or lost them for nothing in Kyle Lowry's case.
Yeah.
And in this case, this is the definition of hanging on for dear life, and it's not even the Raptors who are the ones doing it. Now, I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the veteran extension, because obviously if Pascal Siakam stays with the team, I think another season or two, his extension money changes significantly because of the tenure time he has with the Toronto Raptors. So maybe it's money driven more than anything in terms of why he would want to stick with Toronto. But if I'm the Raptors, I could give 0.5 dams of what it is that Pascal Siakam wants. They need to do what's best for the franchise, dude. If Pascal wants to be there, that's great and dandy. Guess what also is great and dandy? Picking a lane. TV, I'm gonna pass it to you as the honorary, Toronto Raptors fan on the podcast. Sometimes I tend to get more passionate about this team than you, just out of the fact that I'm just confused. You have faith. I'm confused. But this is one of those situations where with the Raptors, I hate to say this because this is going to sound so disrespectful, TV. The Raptors are falling into Washington Wizards, Portland Trailblazers territory, bro. They're starting to become the team. This was a team that 3 seasons ago, was it 2023 now? 4 seasons ago.
4 seasons, yeah.
There was no better Wonder Boy connection, right?
Yeah.
Than having Masai Ujiri and Nick Nurse. Now, Nick Nurse is no longer the coach, and we don't know what the heck Masai is doing.
Yeah.
I've never seen such a weird yet graceful slow demise. Like, this is like I hate to describe it even that way because it sounds weird, but it's like I don't know how to contextualize this anymore.
Siakam, okay, here's the thing. You talked about like holding people hostage, holding players hostage, which the Raptors have done. Masai Ujiri loves the guys that he was able to develop in like his system, like being guys that he drafted or picked up as undrafted free agents. He holds on to them way too long, right? Siakam, he's flipping the tables. He realizes that the Raptors want to get the most out of him. He's like, no. You're not taking me away from my money. That's what he's doing. And he's minimizing his trade value by telling teams, if you trade for me, I'm not re-signing. If you trade for me, I'm going to hit the open market. Maybe you can convince me to stay, but that's not a guarantee. That's why this trade hasn't happened. That's why the Raptors are caught in this limbo. Siakam wants to get his money. Like you mentioned, he's like 1 or 2 years away from getting that 10-year extension where he can get like over 220 million for over 5 years, that type of stuff, especially because he has the All NBA All Star attached to his name as well. He has that. And also with the fact that he's still like what, a top 25 player in the league. Like there's like Siakam is like in that bracket. Like, he is an elite player. So he has the leverage here. And like now with like the situation where he's telling teams that he's not going to resign there, with that uncertainty, what are these teams going to give up? The Raptors have put themselves in the corner where they kind of, I feel like, have to trade Siakam in order to pick the lane, like you mentioned. But Siakam is making it hard for them because he's like, look, I know what you guys are trying to do. I'm not going to hurt myself in the process, hurt my bag in the process, in order for you guys to get what you want. I'm going to get mine back. You can figure out what you're going to do with me afterwards. But if you're going to trade me, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait. Not next year, maybe the year after, but they're going to have to wait. And that's what the Siakam has been doing with the Toronto Raptors. And as a Raptor fan, look, it's tough right now. We got our championship. I don't care. You guys figure it out now. Whether he stays or not, I'm still a Pascal Siakam fan. This money stuff is kind of out of my realm of like knowledge and stuff like that. That's a Masai Ujiri issue. But at the end of the day, the Raptors, I kind of drafted Pascal. Take what you can get for him. It's not going to be pennies on a dollar. You're still going to get a decent package, but it would be a lot better if those comments didn't come out. Or you bite the bullet, sign him to that contract, and try to figure this stuff out afterwards. And with this new CBA and the kind of prevention of super teams trying to add that third star, that's going to make it harder and more now than ever. So the Raptors are definitely caught at the crossroads.
Let me ask you this question real quick, because it is kind of attached to Pascal Siakam. Does this Pascal Siakam situation in any way, shape, or form to you, again, because I think passing it to the Raptors fans is way better in this situation, just because I feel like I just feel like I'm always confused about Toronto, but that's because I also know that I'm just not as tapped in when it comes to that. Does this Pascal Siakam situation at all, or maybe I'll ask, how does this situation impact the OG Anunoby situation? Because at the end of the day, Pascal is worried about his bag. Understandable. But OG Anunoby's bag is coming up first. Mm-hmm. And there's been comments dating back to almost 2 years ago that he believes that he has more to offer, a skill set that can provide a lot more if he can be more on the ball. He wants to continue to develop as an on-ball threat. A dude that wants, I think the specific phrasing for it was a bigger role, right? These are all things that have become important to him, alongside the fact that obviously his extension is a big question mark coming up. So how, if at all, to you, do you think this Pascal situation impacts the OG Anunoby situation?
I think the Raptors would be more comfortable signing OG just because I think like he's like an easier piece to trade because he fits on so many other teams compared to a Pascal Siakam. But the difference is Pascal Siakam is the more tenured player. He's the better player. He's the one who, to be honest, ever since Kawhi left, he has been our best guy. He has been like a multiple-time All-NBA, multiple-time All-Star. He has more leverage in situations saying, look, I have every reason. I've done everything that you asked me to do, every reason for you to pay me. So he has like more of a reason to ask for that money. He has more like he's warranted to ask that money. But with the direction the Raptors want to go to, committing to Scotty Barnes, I think it's like it probably is best to have someone like OG who's a better off-ball player than Pascal Siakam around him. But now with the whole Pascal Siakam situation coming up, having to try to pay OG and maybe like risking yourself going into that next bracket or whatever it is the new CBA is called, they're gonna have to answer that question. Is it gonna be worth it? Is it not? And having that Pascal Siakam extension on the table, which is getting closer and closer, the more they wait on this, it's gonna make it tough for OG to get his money, at least with the Toronto Raptors over here. I mean, the good thing is that the CBA has allowed the Raptors to offer him more money, whether that means that we're going to be able to offer it, it's making it less likely if a Siakam like major extension is on the table.
That's interesting to think about because I think that OG, I do agree. I also think in terms of building blocks, OG is a lot more flexible in terms of what you can do with him long term. I think most of the redundancy left on this roster really is Pascal versus Scotty Barnes. So that really does make you wonder, like, yeah, Pascal might be more tenured. Yeah, he might be the better player, but does he fit for what we're doing moving forward? I think a lot of the 6'9" everywhere, defensive versatility, length, switchability, all of that stuff definitely starts with Pascal. But you do kind of wonder at the end of the day, right? Like whether or not, whether or not his fit is going to impact the overall development of this roster moving forward as a team that wants to be a threat in the Eastern Conference. So I think that's a great point. TV, one last thing before we switch topics. It's not necessarily about Toronto in terms of the Raptors, but this popped up on my feed and we're already on the Canada topic. So I kind of just want to keep this here for a second.
Yeah.
The Canadian national team looks insane, my boy. I got to give you guys credit where credit is due. You guys got some heavy hitters this year.
It's nice.
Jamal Murray, Dylan Brooks is playing. You guys got Kelly Olynyk mixed in here. Dwight Powell. I like Lou Dort. You got RJ playing. Bro. Look, we've seen the U.S. national team. We know it's got Tyrese Halliburton, Brandon Ingram, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges. We've seen the U.S. team. The U.S., although we love our good, good red, white, and blue when it comes to going into these tournaments, the U.S. isn't feeling too great about the squad. About the squad, excuse me. The star factor is not where we're used to, so to speak.
Yes.
Now, TV, on the other hand, I'm gonna give you the floor here, man. I think Canada came to play.
Honestly, the only thing that sucks is that we're not gonna get some of the young guys playing. Obviously, Wiggins isn't playing, which absolutely breaks my heart. I really wish that Wiggins would have. We don't have Chris Boucher playing the young guys, and what's it called? Nemhart, who played in the summer league, same thing with Shaden Sharp. He's not playing as well, which I would really like to have them on the roster. But man, the big boys came to play. We got the freaking. I think we have the best backcourt in FIBA right now. SGA and Jamal Murray. That is a filthy backcourt.
Yeah.
Right now, you have that. You got the freaking the major instigator and Dylan Brooks committed to the team. You got RJ Barrett. All these guys. Honestly, if there's a year to beat the U.S. in the tournament, this is the year. And to be honest, this is the year. And you're not, and I'm telling you right now, Jay, you're not touching our backcourt. You're not freaking touching it.
Look, bro, I mean this truthfully. All due respect to the U.S. national team, I think I'm actually a bigger fan of the squad that we have, especially with the fact that I know that the U.S. national team's new focus is to try to go younger, right? We're so used to this idea of having all our typical all-star MVP caliber guys on the roster, but we have to also understand that a lot of the best guys in our league right now that are American-born players, most of them are in their like early or not, if not mid-30s now, right?
Yeah.
The Kevin Durant's, the Steph Curry's, the Klay Thompsons, a lot of those guys are a lot further up in age. To be able to make long runs in the postseason and different things like that, these guys have to be able to conserve their bodies. You can't ask 38, 39-year-old LeBron James, hey, go play in the World Cup. You know what I mean? So understanding that, I still think, sure, there's a handful of guys that we still would love to see that are a part of the young group, right? Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson. There's still a handful of guys. But I do think that the group that the U.S. is running out with is still really talented under the given circumstances. But like you said, there's a decent argument that Canada might have the best backcourt in FIBA, like you mentioned. And that's not even mentioning the fact that, again, you mentioned Dylan Brooks, RJ Barrett. Shout out to Purdue. You guys are getting demon Zach Edey as well. Like, you guys got some guys. Like, you guys got some dudes, bro. You guys got some dudes.
Yeah.
So that for me, if I'm a big FIBA fan, Team Canada is that team to watch right now. They are definitely one of those squads that just is going to be interesting to watch how they fit. And it also, again, does kind of make me fear for Team USA a little bit just because Canada came to play. Like I said, I know this wasn't on the team, on the
Yeah,
itinerary or anything, but since we were already kind of talking,
yeah,
Toronto
I
basketball,
got you.
I saw that pop up on my feed and I'm like, bro,
It's
you
nice.
you good. You got hey, Canada got something to look forward to in basketball
Yeah.
right now. Toronto might be confusing, but Team Canada looks ready.
Yeah.
That's me.
No, honestly, I'm glad that what's it called? Team Canada, like they have this new 3-year system. You have to commit to it, be a part of the team. I'm glad that these guys were able to commit and stay with the team because it builds continuity, it builds the chemistry and all that. I think that's something that the Team USA team is missing. I'm not sure if they have it implemented yet because I feel like it's just a completely new rosters every time they go to any of these tournaments. But man, if Canada has been working on it, have been like in the gym together for these last couple of years, trying to figure out how to like play together, I'm excited to see what they're able to do. I'm super excited, and I'm excited. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that FIBA World Cup, which is starting next month. So I'm super excited about that. Moving on to the next topic, we're going to be starting a new series because we have reached another end of an NBA season, which means the position rankings we about for each of these positions are going to be coming back. After another great NBA season, we have to rank our top fives in each position. And we're going to be starting with the guard positions today. I think we went a little bit long, so we might just do a PG today. We're gonna probably move on to the shooting guards. Honestly, we might even do some like bonus episodes coming up soon, so maybe we can get to those a little bit quicker as well. But we're gonna start with the PGs today. We're gonna go through 5 to 1, maybe some couple of honorable mentions to start off with as well. But we're gonna be going through our top fives for the point guard positions today. Jay, how you feeling about these lists?
Man, I'll say it this way. I'm glad we had to only stick to top five because if this list got longer, it was gonna be hard, boy. The point guard position is one of them ones.
The point guard might be the hardest one to be completely
Yeah.
honest. It might be the hardest one. And I'm gonna throw it over to you, Jay, because if you have any honorable mentions, speak them right now because we definitely left off a lot of great talents.
All right. Well, look, the honorable mentions that I have at the point guard position, pretty much the two that I stuck with were James Harden and Jamal Murray. Those were the two that didn't crack the cut, but they were right there on the fringe. And honestly, I think under the right circumstances, you could talk me into either one of them vaulting into the top five. But for me, as of right now, those are the two guys I had on the outside looking in.
For me, I have two guys here as well. One of them is being James Harden. Yes, he did not crack my top five. The other guy, man, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving feels like he should be like in these conversations every year. The availability on the court is definitely a question mark, but he's still one of the most talented guys. I feel like he should be in these discussions, but once again for this year, I do not have him on my top five point guards. But Jay, starting off with number five, who do you got?
I got John Morant, bro. I have John Morant. I know the antics are making it kind of tough right now. It's a big discussion as to whether or not we can really consider him as a top talent when you consider his inability to kind of stay on the floor due to injury sometimes. It seems like John Morant is kind of always injured at the most inopportune times nowadays, which is obviously unfortunate in its own way. Obviously, from a PR standpoint, he's not the
Yeah,
best point guard to watch right now.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, he's instilled a culture in Memphis that is contagious. It's helped the players around him become much better. His ability to play as an on ball, high usage guard, but still be able to get his teammates involved in a way that only a handful of guards in this league can, it's huge. I think that, the big debate, right, is sometimes between guys like Morant and Trae Young. And I just believe at the end of the day that although Trae Young has better range, I think that Ja Morant has better portability in terms of his translation to the next level. I think that Trae Young's three ball ability is a good equalizer for the fact that he's such a net negative defensively. But I think that Ja Morant's ability to get others involved is almost more impactful as a skill. Now, I'm not saying that Trae Young isn't a top 10 passer either. Trae a top 10 facilitator in his own right. But I think that the it factor, especially when you talk about postseason basketball, that's where I think John Morant vaults a guy like Trae Young. Also, Trae Young is a guy that I feel like when his three ball is not falling, he kind of tends to disappear. You tend to not feel him. Like this past season, I felt like Trae Young had an all-star caliber year, and we just didn't feel his impact. I don't feel like you say things like that about Ja Morant. I know that the Memphis Grizzlies are a deep basketball team, and so it's easy to look at them go on significant runs when he's injured. But you notice that they play a different brand of basketball when he's not on the floor.
Yeah.
And their depth is just good enough to hold up the bill. For Trae Young, he has to be the system so much that when he's kind of not playing up to standard, you just don't feel him on the court over
Yeah.
the course of an 82 game season. So I have Ja Morant. I think that you could convince me about James Harden or Jamal Murray or even potentially Trae Young as being better. But I think that the athleticism factor for Morant, along with his brand of basketball, I think it kind of just separates him from these guys right now.
Yeah, 100%. And funnily enough, he is also at my number 5. I got John Morant
Okay.
as well.
Cool.
Just like the all-around game, I know like it's been jaded a little bit because of the whole off the court antics, but to look at the player himself, the guy on the floor, one of the best scorers in the league, one of the most athletic guys, using his athleticism to his full advantage, improved passer, and just as a leader, I think even as a leader compared to Trae Young, who was also in consideration for sure. I just think that he has like a better like leadership aspect to him. I know it doesn't seem right, especially with the way he carries himself off the court, but as terms of on the court, he definitely has shown that he has grown within himself and being able to lead this team to very successful seasons, especially over the last 2 years as well. I have John Moran at my number 5. I think you took a lot of the words out of my mouth because you already talked about him already, but he is also there at my number 5. I mean, that's 1 for 1, Jay. We're gonna have the same number 4 as well. Who do you have at number 4?
Number 4, man. It's part of the crazy Canadian backcourt, bro. I got my favorite player in the league, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, at number 4. This is literally my favorite player. I know that I have a hoodie that has John Moran on it right now. That should not sway anybody's feelings about what I'm about to say right now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been one of my favorite players literally since coming out of Kentucky, and it's only further developed over the course of the last couple of seasons. The reason why is because I feel as though Shai Gilgeous-Alexander easily has had one of the greatest rises in NBA history in terms of the pathway that he has taken and the knowledge that he has been able to pick up from a season-to-season basis in terms of his role changing and his ability to adapt around the role changing. If everybody remembers, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was initially drafted by the LA Clippers, that was that deep basketball team that had Patrick Beverley, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell. They were taking on the entire world, and they played way above their weight class. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander got to learn under some big-time veteran guards, and he played really well, right? He transitions over to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he plays in a 3-guard lineup next to Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was essentially either the second on-ball guard or in a lot of times even the third on-ball guard in a lot of scenarios where he had to learn to be able to play off all-ball actions, get other people involved, learn how to shoot the 3 at a high clip off catch and shoots, put the ball on the floor, and just learn how to be a floor general behind a guy like Chris Paul on top of all of that. Then you have his first real season as an on-ball magnet, the guy who has to make all the decisions and operate in a way where now you're the man on the team. And we saw strides of that. And then this past season happened. He became one of the only guys in the league out of what, maybe I think 4 or 5 that averaged 30 points a game for the season. And he nearly backpacked a team with, remember, we all said it, 0 spacing on the squad. Yes. He nearly backpacked a team with 0 spacing and one of the youngest squads in the NBA that we thought was going into another tanking year after Chet Holmgren got injured in the offseason. He nearly got them to the play-in tournament.
Yes.
Right? So let's remember all of the circumstances in which Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has built his career up until where he has reached now. And for the first time in probably, let's say at least the last 3 seasons, the Oklahoma City Thunder look like they're ready back to being competitive over the course of 82 games. This might be a year where we see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play 70 plus games and this team go for a 10 spot and up. and legitimately really try to make some noise in the Western Conference. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a big catalyst to the culture that they've built. And his developmental rise since being drafted is just like easily one of my most favorite stories in the league. So I obviously have some bias as it is, but this past season in particular has only further backed up everything that I thought was great about this guy.
I love to hear the love for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So absolutely love the guy, one of my favorite players in the league as well. And funnily enough, he's also at my number 4. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's over there. I mean, you said a lot of the great things. You talked about his story. One of the things I will add, though, is that in terms of someone who plays at their own pace, I don't see someone as great as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing that. Sometimes he feels like he's moving in slow motion, even though he's pretty athletic. He can get any shot off, it feels like, ever, but also like in not like the most prototypical way. He can do it like from underneath. He can do it from over the top. He doesn't have like the most like high arcing jumper of all time or whatever, but he can always seem like to get the shot off, and it feels like whatever shot he puts up is a good shot. Sometimes even like it just feels like it's like one of those shots where it's like it just like kind of like will find a way to trickle itself in. I mean, he's pretty damn efficient himself this past year, scoring 51% from the field as well. And I think like what's really gotten him into that next atmosphere, and I think we talked about this in the regular season, is the fact that he's been able to get to the free throw line like hell amount of times this year. Like that's like one of the things that are true like kind of like showings of a superstar is like when you're able to just get those calls and kind of really like assert yourself when things aren't really going your way, especially from like a shooting perspective. If you're able to effectively like and like be like such a force on the offensive end that you're able to like even get to the free throw line at will. I mean, he's a special player, and it's only going to go up from here. The players around him are only going to get better. This is why we talked about earlier the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are one of the most exciting teams in the league, and they're only going to go up from here, especially with the amount of talent that they have now, especially adding Chet Holmgren to the front court. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has another tour to play with over there at OKC, and I think he's just only going to get better. We can see himself very much in MVP conversations very, very soon. Jay, moving on to number 3. We're 2 for 2 so far with the save on this list. Who do you have at number 3?
All right. So number 3, that's where I get to Damian Lillard.
Okay, before we move on, we're also at the same number 3, but go on.
Okay. I mean, hey, look, this is why I think and just for everybody that's listening, and we plug the TikTok content so much because A, we're trying to get better at holding ourselves accountable for this stuff, but B, because check out the TikTok. We about to go crazy. Don't sleep. But we might end up doing a top 10 that's a little bit more thorough than this in TikTok form, just as a way to kind of like really flesh out the list. But look, the top 5 is still tough regardless. But this is one of those lists that point guard wise, although it's hard, there's also a handful of talented guys that just kind of float above the rest. I think we actually got past the most debatable guys. Yeah. I think what'll be interesting to see is if we were to do our 6 through 10 or like a 6 through 15, what the rest of that list would look like. But of course, for the top 5 point guards, of course, we're going to run into some similar log jams. So with that being the case, my push for Damian Lillard at the end of the day is that take whatever you want from the running, from the grind, all of this crazy offseason nonsense about him finally wanting to leave Portland, and of course it being in like the most inopportune time possible, right? Whatever. We can get on Damian Lillard's case all we want to about why a lot of what's going on right now is just a long time coming. We've beat this soapbox to death with Bradley Beal. So you guys have all heard this. If not from us, then somebody, right? So I won't get into that long tangent. Damian Lillard at age, 32 or something like that, just had like the best season of his career statistically.
Yes.
This was a team in Portland that was like actively bad and still had like a 120 offensive rating. They were like one of the best offenses in the league off the back of just Damian Lillard being a demon offensively. Like, this was a dude that TV, like, his team didn't even sniff the playoffs, and people were pissed that he didn't make the All-NBA team. That's how good Dame was last year. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, regardless of all the foolishness antics-wise with what the heck is going on right now, this dude is playing at an unnatural level, and we know in a winning situation, He's going to give us top tier playoff and postseason performances. And he's a guy that is a floor raiser legitimately at the point guard position. He's the one of the only people in our league that the minute they step past honestly the full court line, low key, that you fear for in terms of pulling up as a shooter. And at the end of the day, I think that his game drives offenses in a way that, again, I think, look, regardless of what happens with this whole situation, if Damian Lillard is playing in a winning situation, that team has a chance to win a championship. I don't think there's a ton of guards in the league that you can say that about. Damian Lillard is somebody where I think when you say, if he is the lead man and he is playing at his capable capacity with a winning situation at least structured around him, they have championship aspirations every single year, and they have the ability to be a dangerous team regardless of what conference he were to play in.
Yeah, I have to 100% agree. I mean, the Portland Trail Blazers are a bad team. There's no ways around it. This team, they say they're trying to build about Damian Lillard, but we talked about it on and on throughout the season. It's the 1 foot in, the 1 foot out, the not fully committing, but also wanting to still rebuild. It's a whole mess over there in Portland. But if there's one constant with this team, it is that Damian Lillard is going to get buckets. And not only is he going to get buckets, but he's going to be able to carry a team. Yes, is it only the 12th seed? Yes. But at the end of the day, Damian Lillard, it's like he's one of those players. Like, imagine, like, we talk about take Luka off the Mavericks, take whatever team off, like whatever superstar off their team. If you take Lillard off the Portland Trail Blazers, what the heck are they, man? What are they? Damian Lillard has been carrying that franchise for the last 10 years. They just haven't had to put like the right pieces around him. Again, about the whole not committing fully and all that. But Damian Lillard, we talked about this with people like with Devin Booker before he got his like major opportunity in a winning situation. We talked about this with. We're gonna see this soon, basically, with like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander once the Oklahoma City Thunder like start to develop well. Put him in a winning situation. I mean, he made it to Western Conference Finals, but put him in a championship situation, you'll see the full value of Damian Lillard. We just haven't been able to see that there in Portland, but we'll still give him his flowers. He's still a freaking top 10 player. Best season of his career coming off this year. He is just that good of a player. He is still a top 3 point guard in this league. This is why this whole situation is being tracked to a T, because when Damian Lillard gets moved, it's going to be a big, big deal and a massive game changer over there in the NBA. So, yeah, Damian Lillard's still a top 3 guy. I have him in my number 3 as well. Moving on to the top 2, I feel like the top 2 feels like it's on a sandstone, but let's go through it. Jay, who's at your top 2? Who's your number 2 now?
My number 2 is Doncic, and the number 1 is Curry.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's mine as well. Speak on Don. Let's speak on Doncic first.
So I think Doncic is a little bit different in terms of my conversation with Ja Morant, because I think that when you talk about Ja Morant, Trae Young, a lot of these guys that have to be on ball to really be extremely effective, Luka Doncic is easily, I think, and arguably the best player at doing this, because I think that at the end of the day, if you have to create isolation offense, you can trust him to be able to create his own shot in ways that I don't think Ja Morant and Trae Young can. And it's funny, I saw a thread the other day that mentioned that I think Trae Young actually was the one who kind of started the conversation with the idea that him and Luka Doncic essentially play the exact same. And I thought this was kind of funny because in a weird way, I think they do. I do think that there's a lot of similarities in their game. But something else that I do think is also very important to mention when talking about a guy like Luka Doncic is that his positional size makes it where there are certain things that, although they play the same, there are certain things that, especially in late game scenarios, Luka Doncic can simply turn to that Trae Young cannot. For example, one of the things that I think is really developed in Luka's game over the last year or two is his ability to work out the post. I think that's been huge for him, not just as a scorer, but as a passer out of the post as well. Those are different things that I think Luka Doncic continues to build on. The biggest red flag with Luka Doncic has to deal with the fact that he is a player that, if the offense is not built around him, kind of similar to the James Harden effect once upon a time with the Houston Rockets. if the offense is not built around him, how effective can he be off the ball? We have the same question marks about Trae Young. I think to a certain extent, we even have the same questions about that with John Morant.
Yeah.
I just think that Luka Doncic as an on-ball threat is so good offensively. I allow that that James Harden I just referred to earlier, that it supersedes our question marks about what he can do when he's not on the ball. He's so good on the ball that him off the ball is something that it's like you ask yourself. He's one of those players that you ask yourself, why would you take the ball out of his hands?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
like when he falls into that category, that's where you gotta vault him up the list.
Yeah, it's just different, Luka Doncic. We talk about, oh, this guy probably like should go off ball, let the other guard do it, especially now that he has Kyrie Irving and all that. We talk about how other players like need to do that. But when you're the Dallas Mavericks and you have probably the best on-ball threat, kind of like a James Harden, kind of like a LeBron James, like probably pre-Miami Heat, why on earth would you take the ball out of this man's hands? You know he's gonna make the right decision, whether it's the pass, whether it's the score. You know he's going to make the right decision, and he is just one of the best players in the league when it's to getting to his own spot, getting his own shot. The three-point shot is inconsistent, yes, but he still has proven that he can hit that on a regular basis. He can get to any spot on the floor. The whole thing about working at the post is so key because he is freaking 6'7". So he like towers a lot of the guards in the league, and he is using that to his advantage. He's low-key strong. Who cares about the athleticism when he can get to anywhere on the court using his slow maniacal sort of pace that he plays at? He is just so good of a player, and the whole idea about him trying to work with Kyrie and taking the ball out of his hands, I don't like that. He is just that good of a player. You just have to keep the ball in his hands at all time. And I truly believe that he's one of those players, even though you have to play a certain way with him, he has to be your system. You can still win that way. You can still win a championship that way, but you just have to have the right pieces around him. Mavericks have failed to do that yet, but there's still some time. Luka's that good of a player. That's why he's like top 2 on this list. He is just that good. And you can put the ball in his hands and you just know that he's going to be able to do his thing, make the right decision. He is one of the best guards in the league for a reason. Jay, let's talk about Steph. I mean, this feels like a conversation that at this point of the year, it's kind of like, let's praise Steph being the best point guard in the league, but there's a reason he hasn't moved, right?
I mean, yeah, like you said before, there's a reason why he hasn't moved. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a guy that just, I mean, dude, he's redefined the position in a way that is just so hard to now. He's made it where you have 3-point shooting as basically a qualification regardless of what position you play.
That's what he's
so
done.
Obviously, there's a certain level of lifetime achievement award that is obviously given to Steph Curry in this way, but it also was the fact that just 2 seasons ago he won the championship backpacking a team that we literally kind of thought had no business making it that far. Mm-hmm. This is a team that, if you remember, the infamous ESPN First Take segment where Kendrick Perkins and a handful of other people were asked how many more championships would the Golden State Warriors win, and they all went 0, right? And then later on that season, they all had to eat crow because Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors won the championship.
Yes.
So it shows that his game is continuing to grow. He continues to be one of the most dominant players at the point guard position. And I mean, dude, it's so easy to kind of go crazy about Curry, so I'm gonna kind of just leave it at that. But like anybody who doesn't know why Curry is number 1, just like I'm not really sure what we're doing here. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not really sure.
Well, the thing is, like, all I could say about Steph Curry, and I won't go too long with this because we all know he's the number 1 point guard in the league, is wherever you look at with Steph Curry, the advanced statistics, the actual regular season, like the regular season stats, the playoff stats, the play on the floor, you can just tell he's the best point guard in the league, no matter where you look. That's the thing with Steph Curry, and that's how like ridiculous he has been. Like you can look at anywhere with this man. Sure, the one flaw you can have him in, he's not a great defender. He doesn't have to be. He just is just so impactful on like the offensive end of the floor, the playmaking, the shooting, the getting to the rim. all levels of basketball. You can't really say anything else, but he's just the best point guard in the league. And there's a reason why his like spot has not been, honestly, it hasn't really been challenged for the last like what 5-6 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't really been in question that he's the number like no one else has been the number one point guard in the league. Depending on if you want to rate James Harden as a point guard back in the day, or maybe that 1 year Luka had where Steph was kind of a bit lower, but at the same time, Steph has really not been kind of challenged at the throne yet. He's still going to be that guy coming this upcoming season as well. He is for real the clear number one point guard in the league. Let us know down below what you guys think. Me and Jay have the exact same list at point guard. Maybe you have some guys mixed up, changed around and all that. Maybe you have someone who didn't make the list on the list. Let us know down below in the comment section. For sure, if you have anything to say about these lists. Moving on, we are bringing back a segment which we didn't do last week because we were going a little bit over time, but we are bringing it back this week. We are doing the NBA draft segment between me and Jay, and this week we're going to do it around a topic which kind of happened a couple days ago. LeBron James changing his number from number 6 back to 23, which he had in 2021. He felt like it was time. I mean, he's synonymous with the number 23 jersey. It feels like LeBron is, but so was someone in Michael Jordan as well. There's been a lot of crazy number 23s in NBA history, and that's going to be the list of the pool of players we're going to be picking from today. Plain and simple, we're going to draft a team with the best number 23s of all time. And if you draft a 23, it has to be that version of the player as well to keep in mind. Jay, pretty plain and simple, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and as with these drafts, Jay obviously gets the first overall pick, and it's a serpentine draft, so he gets the first pick, I get the next two, he gets the next two, so far and so forth. So, Jay, first pick of the draft, who are you taking? I have a feeling it's one of two people.
Come on, man. Resident Bulls fan. We're taking Michael Jordan. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go past that. My second pick, I'm taking LeBron James. Simple as that. It's just now I get the next pick. And honestly, this guy, there's a lot of great players on this list. Not going to lie. But I'm going to say there's actually like, it's a tough list to choose from. But I'm going to go with LeBron's running mate over here. I'm going to do like they do back in LA. I'm going to do it here in this draft. Give me Anthony Davis, but the Pelicans version of Anthony Davis.
All right. I like that one. I think my next pick is going to be give me Philadelphia 76ers Jimmy Butler.
Okay, I was gonna say the Chicago connection was there, Jay. I said it, I literally served it right to you.
Yeah, man. I'm sitting there looking at him like, all right, gotta get him. And then I think the other guy that I want to get is give me Draymond.
Honestly, that's actually a pretty good trio. Him, Michael Jordan, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. That defense is filthy. Holy. Yeah. Oh, I like that pick a lot. For myself now, so I got myself LeBron. I got Anthony Davis. You know what? This version of this player was really underrated. I know it's not from the team that he is known for, but man, that 1 year he had with the Pistons, he was elite. He was like almost a top 5 MVP candidate. Give me Blake Griffin. That 1 year he was on the Pistons. Sure, it's not Lob City Blake Griffin, but this is the Blake Griffin that got a lot better as a passer, as a ball handler. And this Blake Griffin could shoot the three compared to Clippers Blake Griffin. So give me that version of Blake Griffin to go alongside Anthony Davis in that front court. Now I'm basically just missing my back court. So who do we got left to go here? Some nice little choices here. Do I want to move LeBron to point guard? Potentially. That could be a possibility. You know what? I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? Let's move LeBron to the point guard position.
Okay.
And then I am going to go with, do I go with another former LeBron guy? Now, that would be interesting. That would be really interesting. But no, I'm going to go with, there's like two guys I want to go with here. I think this guy would just be really fun on a team with LeBron James. And I think he can work really well off ball. Give me prime Jay Rich.
Okay.
Give me prime Jason Richardson. I think he would be just a fun guy to have on that team. He could shoot the three ball a little bit, but man, this guy could freaking throw it down. So give me Jason Richardson over there in my 2 guard position.
All right.
So you got the next two picks over here.
Are we doing 6-man or no? Just want to double
Nah,
check.
just
Okay. So in terms of so in terms of finishing up, I think the last two guys I gotta take is I gotta keep the Chicago Bulls stuff going. He doesn't have 23 for this, but he does have 23 for the Utah Jazz. I gotta get my boy Laurie in here.
I had a feel. It's like you had the Chicago theme going. I had a feeling that Laurie was gonna get chosen by you.
And man, I've got a couple wild cards at the guard position that would be like super dope. I'm sorry though. I gotta stick at how crazy this defense is. This was not his name when he played for Indiana, but I gotta take him. I gotta get Ron Artest on this team.
Yeah, that's the best version of him as well, in my opinion. That's the best version of Ron.
I gotta take him. I know that wasn't. I was literally looking at the basketball references like they're calling Meta World Peace. I know it's because that's his name now, but Indiana Ron Artest is up there defensively. Like I mean, he's already like an all-time level defender, I think, on the perimeter. But I think like Indiana version, whoo.
Indiana Ron Artest was that guy. That was Malice at the Palace, Ron, bro.
Yeah. Now before I pass it to you, just thoughts on him real quick.
Ron?
Yeah.
Like, he's a damn good player. I think he gets like underrated as a scorer. I think like people forget that in his prime he was like a near 20-point per game scorer while playing all-world defense. He's definitely underrated. I just think that like the whole Malice in the Palace thing really like hurt his reputation. I think he really did rebuild it over there in LA as well. But people forget how good Prime Ron was. Prime Ron was that guy. Even like his short stint with the Kings before he moved over to the Pacers as well, he was elite over there as well. I think he's like a very good player, very good two-way player, and I think that although people like know him for his defense and his tenacity, he was a damn good offensive player back in his day.
Definitely. Anyway, I thought he was a wild card. I didn't even realize he's so far down to the bottom now that he's under Meta World Peace that I didn't even realize like, oh crap, he's on this list. So I just figured we'd do that real quick. But I know you still have your last bit of your draft.
Yeah, I do have one more pick, and honestly, I might throw it all the way back with this pick.
Okay.
With my last pick, this guy didn't have a 3-point shot, but this guy was an elite shooter, according to people back in the day.
Okay.
Sweet Lou Hudson.
Ooh, I'm looking right at him too, bro. That's so cool that you said that. That's so cool.
Give me Sweet Lou Hudson, man. This guy had a smooth stroke. They didn't have a 3-pointer back in his day, but by all accounts was a fantastic shooter. Had a smooth jumper. You have him as just someone who can spot up with all these other guys. You have LeBron on the team passing him the ball. You got a nice athletic guy with Jay Rich, Blake, and Anthony Davis. I think he's just a great fit there, just to be able to go be a good catch and shoot guy. Give me Lou Hudson. Damn good teams, man. Pretty damn good teams.
Man. Can I ask you this real quick before we share our teams? Who are some wild cards or just some honorable mention guys for you? I had a few, to be honest.
Honestly, I really wanted to find a reason to draft either Lou Will or J.R. Smith.
You know who my vice was at a similar position? I was until I saw Ron Artest, I was definitely staring at Kevin Martin. Definitely. Yeah. That was definitely the guy. Kevin Martin, Darius Miles was another one. Denver Nuggets version of Yusuf Nurkic, not a bad one either if you really needed a big. Because Yusuf was so good that at one point Nikola Jokic was playing behind him. Put it that way, right?
Exactly.
And I think maybe the only other guy that was maybe in the contention was maybe Mitch Richmond.
Mitch Richmond, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, shout out Fred VanVleet too. I mean, he would have definitely been a dope pick as well.
Yeah, Mitch Richmond definitely could have been a choice here. He was definitely on the list. I want to see like my last position in terms of Lou Hudson. It was either between him, Mitch Richmond, and Kevin Martin, but I just thought out Lou Hudson. I think throw it back a little bit. He was It's good to talk about some of the old throwback guys. So I got to go with Lou Hudson. Jay, let's go through our teams. Who do you have as your all-time 23 team?
All right. So my all-time 23 team we're going to be playing a lot of defense today.
Yes.
I have Michael Jordan at the point guard position. I'm going to put Jimmy Butler at my 2, Ron Artest at my 3, just for size purposes, I'm gonna put Draymond Green at the 4, but I definitely could see him as my lead rim protector, and then I'm gonna play Laurie Markkinen at the 5.
Yeah. The interior defense might be a little bit an issue, but Draymond being in there definitely does help that. But it's a pretty solid team. And honestly, the perimeter defense might be just so good, it wouldn't even matter. So, man, that's a damn good team. For myself, you got Michael Jordan running the 1. I'm going to put the counterpart there. Give me LeBron James at the 1. At the 2, give me Jay Rich. At the number 3, give me Lou Hudson. At the 4, give me Pistons Blake Griffin, underrated player in my opinion. And at the 5, give me New Orleans Pelicans Anthony Davis. Pretty damn good lineups, man. How you feeling about your team?
I feel pretty good about my team. It's going to be interesting to see how people kind of look at the squad because I think defensively we're definitely there, but the spacing is questionable. So I definitely, it'll be interesting to see how people view the squad. But again, I think there was a handful of 23 is a good number in this league, man. 23
Yes.
is a good number in this league for sure.
100%. And yeah, let us know down below who you guys think had the better draft, who had the better team. Final segment of the show, and we're going to be ending it off with another classic NBA quiz. And Jay, for the first time on the pod, we are going to be going head-to-head for this quiz.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I found a way to do it. And for this quiz, we're going to be going to your neck of the woods. Jay, we're going to go back and forth trying to name as many Chicago Bulls players as we can. Whoever messes up first loses. But here's the caveat. I did add a caveat to this. I have one guy on my phone right here that if you say him, you automatically lose. I'm going to give you have the same chance. Anything of any Chicago Bulls that you think I might say, and if I end up saying that name that's on your phone, I automatically lose the game. It's kind of like a bogey card. It's kind of like a bogey card. Kind of like a bogey card.
Wait. Okay, cool. No, that's kind of dope. So wait, so it's whoever.
So we're gonna go back and forth. So you're gonna start. You're gonna name a Chicago Bull. I'm gonna name one, and then we're gonna go back and forth until either someone can't think of a Chicago Bull, or if one of us says our bogey player.
Okay, let me pick my bogey player first.
Yeah, pick your bogey player.
Okay, holy cow. No, this is dope. Okay, I know who it is now. Okay.
Cool, okay, cool. So you have your bogey card?
Yeah.
I have my bogey card on the screen. So like I mentioned, we're gonna go back and forth. Whoever messes up first or says the bogey card, that's when the game ends. You get to start.
Okay, Kirk Heinrich.
I've got this thing has me scared. Artis Gilmore.
Aaron Brooks.
Ronnie Brewer.
Mike Dunleavy Jr.
Yo, this bogey card is kind of scaring me, bro. Luol Deng.
That's a good one. Oh my gosh. Joakim Noah.
Whew, okay. Give me Ayo Dosunmu.
I hate this player, but Denzel Valentine.
You're so good. Jimmy Butler.
Troy Brown Jr.
Lord Markkinen.
Wendell Carter Jr.
You're still good. Give me Ryan Arcidiacono.
That's such a good one. The weird year with Michael Carter Williams.
Horace Grant.
Oh my God! Wow, that's I gotta pull out a wild card. Daquan Cook.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Also,
I'm so sorry, bro. I had to go deep.
You lose if we repeat the same player. If you repeat the same player or you repeat someone else's player, you also lose.
Okay, cool. Okay, that makes it where you have to pay attention a little bit more.
Yeah, pay attention. Okay, give me. I'm so scared of that freaking bogey card. Judd Butler.
Jimmy Butler?
No, Judd Bushler.
Oh, Judd but okay. DeMar DeRozan.
Zach LaVine.
Chris Duhon.
Chris Dunn.
Damn, I gave you that one. Rajon Rondo.
Ooh, Dwayne Wade.
Ew, I gave you that one too. I swear I did. Shout out Big Shrek, Cristiano Felicio.
Ooh,
shout out my boy.
Yo, that was so close to being my bogey player. I swear to God.
Really? Oh my God, I'm so glad I dodged that bullet, bro.
Oh my gosh, that was so close to being my bogey player. Pau Gasol.
Oh. All right, we're getting there. Ooh, we had Jimmer Fredette for like 30 seconds.
You did. Keith
Yeah.
Bogans.
Bogans? Oh, that's disrespectful, TV. I'm not gonna lie, bro. Um. Oh my gosh, what's my boy's name? Let's just go with somebody that's on the team right now. Andre Drummond,
You're still good. Carlos Boozer.
bogey player.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Boozer?
Boozer the loser is like my favorite guy to pick on. So
Oh,
bogey player
damn.
like easily.
Oh,
Yeah.
bro. I got the bogey. Damn it. That was dope. That was dope. You know who my bogey player
Oh,
was?
dude, that's cool. I like that. Wait a minute. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Yeah, you know what my bogey player was freaking
Who
Kyle
was it?
Korver.
Okay, I'm so glad you called your bogey player first.
Ugh.
Wow. When I tell you I would have sold that, that was literally the next dude.
Kyle Korver.
Swear to God, it was him. I'm about to pull up the list real quick. So let me go to like Chicago Bulls players in general. Okay, so the next few people that would have probably came to mind just as BS. First of all, I would have used Fred Hoiberg as a troll.
Okay, fair.
Kyle Korver was definitely there. I
Yeah.
was scared to pick Kobe White because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
We didn't say Ron Harper, I don't think.
No one said Ron
So
Hart.
that would have been okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
damn, I can't believe I lost on.
Nobody said Tony Kukoc. That's who I thought your bogey player would have been. Because I thought that would have been way too easy. So I didn't pick him at all.
Yeah, no, I went with someone absurd, so I went with a Kyle Korver.
Wow.
That's
I
a
was literally that freaking close, dude. That's so crazy to think about. I had a couple of guys in the vote, though. I ain't gonna lie. Like Walt Lemon Jr., I would have remembered that.
I was gonna go Bob Love next. I was gonna go
Dude, if you had went Bob Love, I think I'd have been so discombobulated that I wouldn't have been able to come up with another person.
I would have said
I'm
Bob.
like, what?
Yeah.
Bob Love is crazy. Wow, we didn't say Scotty either.
We did not say
I just realized we were coming up with such obscure names that like we didn't even name some of like the normal people. I'm sitting here
No
looking
one said Derrick Rose, bro. No one said
Scottie
Derrick
Pippen
Rose.
didn't come up. Derrick Rose didn't come up. Bobby Portis, Otto Porter Jr. Like I'm looking at some
Yeah,
of
there's
Dennis Rodman. I'm like, yo, what the heck? We didn't
yeah,
even
no,
name, like some of the some of like the easy dudes. That's freaking hilarious. We were just trying to throw each other off.
I was trying to think of the most random names just to throw you off completely. But yeah, that's the type of quiz we got. I think it was a nice, quick one. It was definitely a fun one. Let us know down below. You know what, Jay? I'm gonna even warn you for next week when we do the next one of these. We're doing the Toronto Raptors next, so get
Bet.
brush up on
Okay,
some
I'm gonna
knowledge.
have to do some training, but I got a couple of guys already, so we might be okay.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now. Preview for next week. We're doing the Raptors,
Bet.
and I'm not gonna let you get me dirty on the Raptors. I'm not gonna. So be
Say
prepared
less.
for
Say
that.
less.
That's gonna be next week's quiz. So be prepared for that. But yeah, if you have any more ideas for any quizzes, and all that type of stuff, let us know down below in the comments section. But Jay, we reached another end of a fantastic episode. Thank you all for watching or listening. What do you have to say to these beautiful people before we head out?
First off, shout out TV for the new format, man. I feel like every time this man hits me with a new format for these quizzes, I have more fun. He brought to the table that naming naming the player based on what team they were on over the course of their career one. And I really enjoyed that one. And now we made a little bit of a challenge out of it. So now I don't know. I gotta kind of go through my NBA roster history now.
Yeah.
Do some homework before that Toronto Raptors one so I can hang on par. So shout out to TV keeping the quizzes fresh. But also, man, we say the same thing every single week. First off, we want to stay consistent. So we're always going to record every single week. We try to keep it on the same day in terms of uploading, but at the end of the day, you guys are never going to miss an episode from us unless there's just something really going on. That's really the only reason you'll ever miss an episode. Otherwise, all summer, all season long, expect a Hit Your Free Throws podcast episode on all streaming platforms. We say this about the social media all the time. Me and TV got a lot of stuff going on in life, a lot of transitional stuff specifically going on in life. But don't sleep on the social medias, man. At the end of the day, we're trying to post dang near daily. TV's been a lot better at that than me. Just you guys wait. I got so many things in the vault that it's gonna kind of get crazy. I think it's gonna get a point where once I start posting, you guys are gonna be sick of seeing me on your feed. I'm throwing it out there to put that in the universe for myself just as much as you guys. So again, Stay in tune with the social medias. Stay in tune with us on all streaming platforms, including YouTube, where some new stuff is going to happen with that one, where we're going to try to split segments up and make it more digestible for you guys as well. And yeah, man, the NBA offseason is officially at its dull point. But I think TV introducing a new segment as a part of his overall umbrella in this quiz area should give you guys a good indication that we got some really fun stuff coming up soon.
Yeah, we have some stuff always cooking in the chamber over here, and we're going to be releasing it all to you throughout the entire summer. The NBA season might be over. The NBA offseason might be kind of like silent period, but you're going to get some really good content out of us throughout this entire summer. So be locked in. The YouTube, the podcast, the Instagram, the TikTok, and even our social or individual stuff. That stuff might be coming back to the Knockdown J at TVM Basketball. Try to check out all of those links are going to be in the description down below. But it's another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV signing out. That's Jay. Hope you have a fantastic day. See you guys. Peace.
Peace.